Hello, dear friends. Here we are for these impromptu teachings on the spiritual path, on my experience and the amazing teachings that I have received from my teachers in the yogic and Buddhist tradition, and for the studies that I've done across other world religions, like in Christianity, in Islam, in Sufism, that is, and in Judaism as well, mystical Judaism. That being said, the main focus of my time over the last 9 years or so has really been more in the yogic and in the Buddhist tradition. And my primary teachers have been also in those traditions, and that's really the main reason that I have followed these paths, because those are the traditions out of which the teachers have arisen to me. So it's not that I think Buddhism or yoga is the best and that everyone should be Buddhist or be a yogi, but I have found my way in these traditions. I've found the most profound teachings in these traditions, and I've found teachers, most importantly, I've found teachers who have arisen to me in my life and who have taught me the path, because we can read beautiful mystical writings and teachings from all the different world religions and mystical practices, and they can be deeply inspiring, but without a teacher to introduce us to the path in a living way, and not only that, but to be holding a lineage that's going back hundreds of years, thousands of years, and that has been held strong throughout all this time, that can really breathe a life into spiritual practice that's very difficult to recreate without that living teacher and that living lineage. And I know that in my own life, the transition from meeting such teachers was a huge moment in my own path, from going out of the books and videos and so on, and into a really lived experience of it with teachers. And even in videos, sometimes that can come through. But at very least, a spoken, one of my teachers says, there's even a scientific study where, you'll have someone explain or write down how to do some task, like let's say something on a car, change some part or something like that. And people typically aren't able to do it based just on the instructions. But then if someone who knows how to do it comes and shows them how to do it and walks them through it, then they learn it for life. So I think it's somewhat similar in the spiritual path. We really need someone who has lived the path, who's been in the path, to teach us. And so for these sessions, what I'm hoping to do, and this has really been inspired by the circumstances that we're all dealing with right now, and I'm sure we've all felt in some way a greater solidarity among people, a greater connectivity, especially online. People have really been reaching out and being present, and there seems to be some collective understanding that we really need to be here for each other at this time. And so the way that has manifested for me is that I had planned for these 2 months to go with one of my primary teachers to Italy and to do a 2-month meditation retreat that I'd really been aspiring to do for several years now. And all of the causes and conditions had to come together to make that possible, and finally this year it was going to happen. And that ended up being canceled, of course, because of the coronavirus. And one of the things that it has really brought into focus for me is impermanence. And this is a fundamental Buddhist teaching, impermanence, the contemplation of death. The Buddha famously said the greatest of all meditations, like an elephant in the jungle, is the meditation on death. And the reason for that is because the reflection of death, well, there are many reasons for it, but one is that the reflection of death really highlights what is most important in our life and helps us to ascertain what is of most meaning, and at the moment of death, what will be of value at that moment. And if you've ever been with someone who has died, you will have seen that everything that they once relied upon, unless they're a deeply spiritual person. But if they've been someone who's really relied on the external world, on external stimulus, on the next vacation, the next party, the next movie, the next something from outside, and they haven't cultivated an inner life, in those final moments, none of that serves them anymore. It's all a distant memory. It's all like last night's dream. They grasp at it, they try to remember, and some people around them will even say, and I'm speaking from my own grandparents last year, but I'm sure many people can resonate with this who've gone through a similar experience, and that is, people around may say, they live such a rich life, they live such an amazing life, so many memories, so many experiences, but what we see in those final moments is that none of that really exists for them anymore. The only thing that exists is the awareness that they have cultivated, the steadiness of their mind that they have cultivated in their life. So that's their present moment awareness, whether it's shaky, whether it's firm, whether it has realization, whether it's imbued with love, whether it's imbued with a vast view, whether it's imbued with expansive compassion. Whatever you've cultivated in your life, that's what will be there in that final moment, in your present moment awareness. And then in addition to that, there will be the momentum of all of the karma, all of the actions, all of the seeds that you've been planting your whole life. And that is what, from the Buddhist perspective and the broader spiritual perspective, that is what will propel you into your next incarnation, into the next phase of your consciousness. So those are really the two things that we can rely on. And of course, we know Jesus famously said that, we should not build up our riches here, but cultivate the heart, because none of that can come with us. Not even the shirt on our back. And so not even this body, nothing. And so if we were to try to come up with a definition of spirituality, or what's called in the East, Dharma, it is something that transcends this physical body, this limited existence, this little dream of our life in this vast continuum of lifetimes of cyclic existence. This is like a little dream, 100 years, boom. And you can see when people come to the end of their life, that is how they feel. It feels like it just, where did it go? And we can even feel that today. I look back on my life, I'm sure you look back on yours, and can you identify a sense of, whoa, how did I get here? How quickly this time has passed, and all of a sudden here I am at this age, or at this age, at this stage of my life. My memories of high school are like last night's dream. Are they even real? Did they even ever happen? So anyway, Dharma, true spirituality, is something that we cultivate that transcends that, and that will be with us in the long haul. My muscles, my house, my car, the way my face looks, all of that, that's going to fall away even in this life, let alone over the course of many lifetimes. On the other hand, cultivating a spiritual mind, cultivating virtue, cultivating an expansive heart, cultivating a view of reality that actually empowers your ability to confront the realities of old age, sickness, death, uncertainty, everything that can come up, something that can actually get you through that. And something that will bear a positive fruit, not just in this life, but in all lives to come. And again, even if we don't believe in reincarnation, or we haven't really looked into it, or we're not really sure what to say about it, we can see that a lot of this even plays out within our own life. We'll get deeper into the reincarnation thing, but the point is that this virus has in many ways accelerated that meditation for so many of us. And for those who've already had a practice or who have been exposed to spiritual teachings, and specifically Buddhism, because this topic weighs so heavily, it's been a real impetus to return to this topic of impermanence and death. And so as I have faced this, two things have come in. One is an even deeper resolve to go into the depths of my own practice, to further cultivate my mind, to further deepen my awareness, my realizations, my understanding, my insight, such that if death were to come at this moment, in the midst of this virus, I would be ready. One of my favorite teachers talks about this story of this monk. His bags are packed. He's ready to go. He's ready for anything. That's a true spiritual practice. And again, there's two elements to this. One is your present realizations, whatever realizations you've been able to cultivate, whatever piercing realizations into reality, into the nature of love, all of that, that's with you. And then also your momentum. So at very least, we can plant good seeds, good karmic momentum, so that we can know, look, I've been planting really beautiful seeds of altruism, of compassion, of loving kindness, of wisdom, of meditation, of revering spiritual, the spiritual path and sublime spiritual teachers and the divine. That's the way my heart has been going. That's the way my mind has been going. And so I know even if I were to die right now, that's the directionality of my stream of consciousness. And so we can die with a sense of peace because we know that that's where we're headed. And then, of course, the deeper our realizations are, the deeper our actual insights into reality, then that also is the fundamentally important to the dying process or to the facing of adversity, okay? And so for me, on the one hand, it's been go deeper into the practice, and then the other thing has been I want to share with those around me whatever humble little bit of knowledge that I have gained during these years of practice, which again, I mean, such a small little, I've been practicing for like a millisecond. I mean, who knows, maybe in past lives, things like that, but in this lifetime, it's been a few years, 8 years, it's like, but I have had the opportunity of coming in contact with some really authentic teachers and being able to sit with them and to receive the ambrosia, the nectar of the Dharma, of the teachings of the Buddha, of the teachings of the enlightened ones. And so I've tried to take those to heart, and I've received tremendous benefit in my own life from listening to these teachings. And so as I look onto this field of impermanence that is existence, and how the way it's heightened at this time, I have made the commitment to go into retreat for these 2 months, and perhaps even beyond that, whenever I can. But I also want to pass along what I have received. So in light of that, I have decided I haven't had the time to create a packaged course or anything like that. Since I'm going into retreat, I need to pre-record these videos so that I'm not doing too much during retreat and can just focus on the practice. So what this is going to be is just really a very casual conversation, casual in the sense that, I'm just speaking from my heart to your heart. I'm sharing what I know. I'm sharing what I've learned. I'm sharing what I've heard from my teachers. And so it's going to be very, very down to earth in that way. What is not ordinary is the teachings themselves, and those have nothing to do with me. This is just this stream of teachings that have come from, all the way from the Buddha and other enlightened masters, and that reach us here today. And so those will be extraordinary, and those we will be sharing together. And as Shantideva said, one of the great bodhisattvas, one of the great awakened beings of India, before he wrote one of his major treatises, and not to compare myself in any way to Shantideva, but I've taken one of the things he said really to heart, which is he said, I'm not actually writing this book for anyone. I'm actually just writing it to imprint my own mind. In other words, I'm writing these words of Dharma just so that I can learn it better, just so that my mind will be more deeply ingrained by the words of Dharma. And so there's something about that is very true to this, which is that I'm going to go through the path. I'm going to go through the stages of the path with you together, and really in many ways so that I can understand them better, so that I can imprint my mind with these precious teachings. And of course, I'm also delighted to be able to share it with you, because then more benefit comes. We all get to experience this together, and our practice can really flourish. So it's good all around. So with that said, I think we understand now why we're here. If you're here, if you're listening to this, then you also have some desire to understand the Dharma, to understand the true nature of reality, to understand the true nature of our being, and to be free of suffering, to be free of the inherent suffering that exists in this human existence that we are now experiencing. So with that in mind, let's drop in, let's generate the most meaningful motivation we can to go over these teachings, to receive these teachings, to study together, and to make this the most beneficial for ourselves and all beings. So with that said, let's drop into the teachings.